that we are putting out on your television screen. This is being seen as the biggest escalation in the Israel-Hezbollah conflict. This is an image that you see of a pager that was with a Hezbollah fighter that suddenly explodes while that man is shopping in a vegetable shop and he collapses. The second image on your television screen shows you the intensity. The pager was kept in a Hezbollah fighter's home at a table, and the explosion was so huge that it blew a hole in the table and everything around was completely destroyed. These are only two of hundreds of such images that are now going viral across Lebanon and the world. The information is 9 people have been killed, at least 2,750 injured, including several critical. Iran's ambassador to Lebanon has also been injured. Along with Iran's ambassador to Lebanon, he too was injured in this pager blast. The information we are able to get is he did not have a pager on his person, but one of his soldiers, one of the security officers protecting him, had a pager that exploded and he was injured. The son of Hezbollah parliament member Ali Ammar was killed in this pager explosion. The Hezbollah has just issued a statement blaming Israel for the pager bombs and has promised there will be intense retaliation. I quickly want to cut across to India Today's Foreign Affairs editor Geeta Mohan joining us with the latest on this big story. Geeta, 9 dead, 2,750 injured, and the apprehension is that both the toll, the dead and the injured, could go higher. What more can you tell us? How did this happen?
Well, a very coordinated, planned attack by Israel, if that is true, because Hezbollah has already claimed that Israel is behind this attack. They've not only called it criminal aggression, but also have vowed just punishment against Israel. Having said that, Gaurav, look at the visuals on the screen. That's exactly what happened. And this is just one instance that we're showing our viewers of a man with a bag and a device in that bag that exploded. And those devices were pagers that were bought as a part of a massive consignment just a while ago. And Israeli intelligence tracking that consignment, knowing very well that these are instruments that are not used by anybody today. Nobody uses a pager today. Who uses a pager? Only those who do not want to be found. It's a one-way communication of somebody giving orders and the others executing the plan. And therefore, they knew that the pagers were going to Hezbollah fighters. And only Hezbollah fighters or those very close to the Hezbollah military or militant wing are the ones who would be owning or having pages in their possession. So timed in a manner where the instrument overheats to an extent that it then causes explosion.
But and these are explosions. Lebanon, when you look at these images, Geeta, the injuries appear to be severe in some instances. 9 people have been killed. Of the 2,750 injured, it includes Iran's ambassador to Lebanon. Stay with me for a moment, Geeta. Ankit Kumar, our open source intelligence chief, our OSINT desk chief, joins us on the broadcast. And Ankit, a special consignment recently ordered, and it just indicates that some intelligence agency, of course, Lebanon is blaming Israel directly, but some intelligence agency was tracking this consignment. What more can you tell us about the pagers and the explosions?
Well, Gaurav, this is one of those stories where there are a lot more unknowns than the known facts. So with that important caveat, here is what we know for sure. So what we have done is we have picked the images of ground spots of the fragments that were left after those explosions were reported from social media, from local broadcasts. And what we have done is we have matched those levels and tried to find the origin of these devices. Now, these devices are linked to a Taiwan-made pager manufacturing unit that supplies old pagers to a lot of very niche businesses. Now, why would Hezbollah be using pager devices in 2024? Because it's almost an obsolete technology.
Absolutely.
Suggesting that because Israel's proven capability of tracking digital communication, tracking internet-driven communications, Hezbollah has taken a step back. It was using landline phones, technologies, old retro technologies such as pager to avoid some kind of surveillance, some kind of reconnaissance that Israel and Israeli-based companies have mastered over the years. Now, this leaves a very important loophole. Imagine if hundreds of very old pagers are being shipped from one country to another country. Who do you think are going to be the likely user of those devices? There are not
Yes.
many individuals who are using it. There are not many businesses who are using it. If all those pagers are being shipped to an area ruled by Hezbollah, that means that is going to be used by Hezbollah operatives. So while they were making a smart decision to go to
Okay.
take a step back, a very retrofitted device, in this case, that also left a watermark of ID who exactly could be Hezbollah operatives. And
Very
there are
interesting you
what there
should
is
point this out. And I want to also quickly bring in Geeta Mohan for more on the injuries, the latest information that we have on injuries. Geeta, Iran's ambassador to Lebanon, he's been injured. A top Hezbollah MP's son has been killed. There are apparently some civilians who've also been killed and injured. What more can you tell us, Geeta?
Well, the Iranian ambassador to Lebanon, that's Mojtaba Amani, has been indeed injured. We know that an infant was killed. Now, the explosions have also led to the death of senior leaders and son of one of the leaders, which is going to cause a lot of tension within the Hezbollah camp. And right now, what we're given to understand is that about 200 of the injured are in critical condition, Gaurav. So that's another serious one, because that could include some serious, important people from the Hezbollah camp. So again, we'll have to wait and see what the names and the numbers are going to look like by the end of what we're calling is going to be a very tiring, tedious day for the Hezbollah. Not only are they trying to get all their fighters, get all the medical attention, but also that many of the critical injuries could turn into fatalities. And if that happens, the numbers could increase in terms of deaths.
If 200 people are critical and 2,750 are injured, 9 already dead, and this is just the initial information that's coming in. And Ankit, this would very clearly indicate, now Israel is being blamed by the Hezbollah. This would indicate, if this truly is Israel, Israel is not one but 2 steps ahead of the adversaries after having been taken aback by the October 7 attacks last year.
Well, October 7 was an anomaly as far as Israel's intelligence and Israel's technical capabilities are concerned. One important aspect in this entire episode is that many people are believing that Israel has used its cyber capabilities only to carry out these kind of a very covert operation. But if you see the entire possible workflow that might have been executed, it is not entirely possible to sit in a command and control center and execute this kind of operation. You need to have some kind of manual intervention in order to tweak those devices. It is not possible, given what we know about the technology. It is not possible to remotely execute based on some kind of software update, some kind of software intervention. There has to be some kind of hardware intervention at some point that requires human intelligence. So this is
Keep
not
tracking that story, Ankit. I will come to you for more. For the moment, Geeta Mohan and Ankit Kumar, many thanks for joining me. Lebanon's Ministry of Health has called on all hospitals to be on a state of highest emergency alert. All hospitals, all beds have been taken. Additional help is being sought. We are tracking that story very, very closely. You're watching India First. I'm Gaurav Sawant. One statement by the Supreme Leader of Iran comparing India to the condition of Muslims in Gaza and Myanmar has led to a very strong response from the Ministry of External Affairs. Unacceptable, says government of India to the comments made by the Supreme Leader of Iran, Imam Sayyid Ali Khamenei, when he was speaking on an Islamic unity meet in Iran. He clubbed India with Gaza and with Myanmar. He said, and I quote, "We cannot consider ourselves to be Muslims if we are oblivious to the sufferings of Muslims in Myanmar, Gaza, India, or any other place." The Supreme Leader of Iran was addressing Sunni scholars during the Islamic Unity Week. He urged followers of Islam never to forget the concept of an Islamic Ummah. He said protecting the identity of the Islamic Ummah is essential, which according to him transcends nationality and geographical borders. India very strongly objected to his comments on the plight of Muslims in India. The Ministry of External Affairs, in a very strongly worded statement, said, and I quote, "We strongly deplore the comments regarding minorities in India made by the Supreme Leader of Iran. These are misinformed and unacceptable. Countries commenting on minorities are advised to look at their own record before making any observations about others." Unquote. Iran's Supreme Leader would be well advised to look at the ground realities in his own country or countries around his in the region. And Union Defense Minister Rajnath Singh, earlier, he'd gone on record to say that India is the only country where people of all religions live peacefully in harmony and together. There are 72 sects in Islam. All of them are found here. Not even in Islamic countries, they have all these 72 sects. There is no question of intolerance in our country. Listen in to Rajnath Singh. I'll get you more on this story.
भारत दुनिया का ऐसा इकलौता देश है यहाँ पर कि विश्व में जितने भी प्रमुख धर्म पाए जाते हैं उस सारे धर्म के लोग यदि कहीं पर आपस में मिलजुल कर रह रहे हैं तो भारत में ही रह रहे हैं। और यहाँ तक कि मैं कई बार बोल चुका हूँ, फिर से अपनी इस बात को दोहराना चाहता हूँ कि इवन इस्लामिक कंट्रीज में भी इस्लाम के जो 72 जो फिरके होते हैं वो 72 फिरके नहीं मिलते हैं, केवल मिलते हैं तो भारत में मिलते हैं। इसलिए यहाँ पर इंटॉलरेंस का कोई सवाल नहीं। जितने भी धर्म के लोग मानने वाले हैं सब साथ मिलजुल कर रहते हैं, साथ मिलजुल कर रहेंगे।
So India made it clear that the comments of the Supreme Leader of Iran are unacceptable, they're deplorable. Strongly worded statement. It made it clear countries commenting on minorities in India, they're advised to look at their own record first. But why would the Supreme Leader of Iran, a country that talks about civilizational links with India, make such a comment? Let's try and make sense of these comments. Joining me on this special broadcast, our Ambassador Prabhu Dayal, former Indian Ambassador to Iran. Zeenat Shaukat Ali is the founder director of Wisdom Foundation, and Sushant Sareen is a senior fellow at the Observer Research Foundation. All our guests are domain experts. And Sushant Sareen, I want to begin by asking you, what do you make of Imam Khamenei's comments clubbing India with Gaza and Myanmar and silent on atrocities that Muslims face in countries like China, for example?
Yeah, but as an aside, let me just first start by saying that he was talking about Muslim unity. There are many Muslims who would not even consider Khamenei a Muslim because of his sect. So for him to, talk about Muslims all over the world, I think that's rather rich coming from a guy like him. Now, look, you could either attribute this to his being senile, but I don't think that's a correct explanation. I think the Iranians have become past masters at playing good cop and bad cop. So Khamenei, not for the first time, has played bad cop when it comes to India, and Iran has had a very dubious role to play inside India. They've incited violence among the Shias in India. They have been involved in terrorism in India. During the bad days in Kashmir, they were involved with the Shia militias in Kashmir as well. And they have felt that it's their God-given goddamn right to comment on India's affairs without any pushback. Personally, I think the pushback which has come today is probably not good enough. It could have been much harsher and should have been much harsher than what we have. We've always kind of downplayed it. For example, they were involved in terrorism. We downplayed it. We tried to, brush everything under the carpet because we didn't want our relations with Iran to get spoiled. Now, the state of relationship is complex, which is why when he plays bad cop, the government in Iran, which is basically a puppet, plays the good cop. So, you will not see Iranian ministers or you will not see Iranian officials take the same line. They will take a much softer line vis-a-vis India. But I think this kind of a double game which the Iranians and many of these countries practice, I don't see how this can be acceptable to a self-respecting country like India.
Oh, absolutely. And not in the 21st century, not in today's world. Iran cannot indulge in any more double speak. Ambassador Prabhu Dayal, you've been our ambassador to Iran. India's always sought good relationship with Iran, talked about that civilizational relationship. Shias perhaps are safest in India. In any country in the world, perhaps they're safest in India. Defense Minister Rajnath Singh pointed out that India is the only country where all 72 firqas or sects of Islam, people live in harmony. What do you make of such a statement coming from Imam Khamenei, sir?
Such a statement can only come from someone like Imam Khamenei. No other Muslim country like UAE, Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, Qatar, Bahrain, Oman, Morocco, Egypt, none of these, which are major Islamic countries and big players on the international arena, they have never said anything detrimental to our interests in this fashion. They have never commented adversely on the condition of Muslims. Khamenei has been notorious in this respect. He has made statements which are very, very obnoxious on a number of occasions. And as Mr. Sushant Sareen said, our reactions have been rather mild. Even on this occasion, while we have said that Iran should look at their own situation, their own record, before making observations about others. But the fact is that we should have been perhaps more harsh in conveying our message. And we should have been specific in what we see as highly objectionable in terms of human rights, which happens in Iran. We have been too nice where Iran is concerned. We have invested money in that Chabahar port. I think this is misplaced investment. Iran can never be a reliable ally.
Look at the way Sunnis treat Shias in Pakistan. He doesn't utter a word. Look at the way China treats its Uyghur Muslims. Not a word. But Zeenat Shaukat Ali, what do you make of this, ma'am? Because India is perhaps the only country in the world where Shias and Sunnis live in perfect harmony. After decades, Shias were able to take out their procession in Kashmir Valley. All festivals are celebrated in India in perfect harmony. What do you make of such a statement made by Imam Khamenei?
You see, thank you for inviting me to the show. And personally, I tell you, I'm quite shocked and horrified that a statement coming from a leader who calls himself the supreme leader of Iran has to come at the time of the Prophet Muhammad, may peace be upon him, on his birthday anniversary. When India is celebrating and when Indians are together, donating blood, standing together with their Hindu brothers, creating goodwill for each other, celebrating. How can you? And he is the great, this is a great promotion of Islamophobia in the world. It is totally and completely misinformed and unacceptable to us in India. As a Muslim in this country, I deplore and condemn such remarks coming from such an eminent person, in the Muslim world. And, we do not accept, and I completely agree that India should have given a much more stronger reply, than it has, and it should in the future. And talking about human rights, or what business does it have to talk about human rights? Iran, when you look at the 2020, and you look at look at what they did to this girl,
we have that entire list on the hijab. On the hijab issue, we've got the entire list of atrocities by Iran on their own people, and especially atrocities on women in Iran. But Sushant Sareen, clearly if he's the supreme leader of Iran, he cannot be ill-informed. Iran has an embassy in India. There are no restrictions on movement of their diplomats in India. Are we to look at this as some kind of a wider plot to defame India and do, there is an ecosystem in our own country. Is that ecosystem feeding into such a narrative? For example, when Citizenship Amendment Act came in, an ecosystem in our own country called it anti-Muslim. Does that feed into that international narrative, that flawed international narrative?
No, I don't think anybody in the international community takes somebody like a Khamenei very seriously, in the sense, seriously in terms of his trying to take some kind of moral high ground, or pontificate on things like human rights. Because like Mr. Shaukat Ali is saying, look at their human rights. They have reduced Islam only to hijab. For the mullahs in Iran, Islam is only about hijab and, cloistering women, depriving them of their basic freedoms. So, do we need to take lessons from a guy like him? No. Secondly, let's look at Iran's own track record when it comes to ethnic minorities or sectarian minorities. Look at the treatment which is meted out to the Baloch, who are basically Sunnis, in the Sistan Balochistan province. Look at the treatment which is meted out to the Azeris, who are up north country, right? Look at the kind of treatment these guys mete out to the Kurds. So, are we now going to take lessons from this fellow, this old man? Number one. Number two. Number three, you are right. He is the supreme leader. He is not entirely ill-informed. But I think, targeting India, which is not a Muslim country, which has a Muslim population, it's a soft target. It's somebody you can do what you are doing without any major pushback coming from India's side. They don't expect a pushback. So they think they can get away scot-free. They can do their virtue signaling. And that's it. It's costless, right?
All of you felt that India should have been stronger in our response. Now, in diplomacy, you often read between the lines. When India is being clubbed with Gaza and with Myanmar, is Iran, one, upset with our multi-alignment? Two, is Iran upset with our relationship with Israel? Why would, I still can't understand, why would Iran, knowing how well respected and how well treated Shia Muslims are in India, perhaps the only country, he's looking at what's happening in his neighboring Pakistan, the way Shia mosques are being demolished and the way Shias are being attacked there, why would he say something as bizarre as what he did?
Because of the fact that he looks at everything through the prism of Islamic values and what he thinks are the interests of Iran. Now, very frankly, Iran is hated by its own neighbors. All the neighbors of Iran in the Gulf are suspicious of Iran because they are afraid that it is trying to overthrow their governments, etc. So nobody likes Iran in that region. Now, what Imam Khamenei has said is downright mischievous. Firstly, it provokes Muslim sentiment in India against the government. Secondly, it also provokes Muslim sentiment in other countries to think that India is against Islam. We do not need a certificate from Khamenei. Our own Muslims are proof of the fact that India is not tolerant. It is very encouraging towards Muslims. See, in all walks of life, we have had presidents of India. We have had chief justices of India. We have had Muslims succeeding in all areas of activity.
Look at the decades of conflict between Shias and Sunnis in Iran and Iraq, or Iraq and Syria. His own backyard is burning and he's pontificating and pointing fingers to India at a time when he's deporting some 2 million Afghans back to Afghanistan.
That's right.
Yeah, so look, Gaurav, at one level, Iran under these mullahs is basically Taliban light. Okay, women have some freedoms, they can go out, but like I said, they've reduced Islam to a hijab, and the kind of brutal treatment which is meted out to women for as little as, even if some hair are shown, the religious police comes and beats up people. So I don't even want to talk about the kind of system they have. Secondly, and I think more importantly, I think there is a tussle within the Islamic world which is going on for who will take the mantle of leadership of the Islamic world. So there is, of course, Saudi Arabia with Mohammed bin Salman, and along with the UAE, very enlightened leadership, very progressive, looking forward, trying to take their societies into the modern world. You have Turkey with a wannabe caliph in this fellow Erdogan, but he has messed up big time, and now, after all his grandstanding, he has to go on his knees all over the place to try and beg for forgiveness. And then you have Iran, which is also making a play, but they have that their Shia majorityism goes against them, number one. Number two, they have only war and conflict to offer. So whether it's in Lebanon, whether it's in Syria, whether it's in Yemen, they have now started affecting international shipping. They are, the most destabilizing factor in the Middle East. So for a guy who's presiding over a regime like that, for him to talk about India, which is, a bulwark of stability in the region, I don't know. Maybe it is actually senility. Who knows?
To all my guests, Sushant Sareen, Zeenat Shaukat Ali and Ambassador Prabhu Dayal, many thanks for joining me here on this India First special. Clearly, one, India needs no certificates. Two, if Imam Khamenei is talking about this Islamic Ummah and he's so concerned about the plight of the Rohingya Muslims, what's happening in Myanmar or what's happening in Afghanistan or what's happening in Pakistan, let him open his borders for those displaced Rohingyas and not send back the 2 million Afghans that he is. We'll be tracking the story very, very closely. That is all I have for you on this special broadcast. Many thanks for watching. News and updates continue on India Today. Stay with us.